Baldy, you're looking sharp.
Hey, what do you say, guys? Well, I mean, it's an occasion.
It is.
We got a live remote going on here.
We got all kinds of food too. If you want to munch in that.
I mean, I just got here. You know, I figured I'd talk a little bit, work up an appetite.
Okay. Now you watched the film today.
Yeah.
Give me your top line takeaway from watching that game. What was the number one thing on the tip of your tongue?
Well, the Eagles could not get one explosive play on offense.
Nothing. And that defense gave up like 9 or 11 the week before. Something crazy.
Yeah, but they didn't play that style.
Okay.
I mean, they basically said, you can run it. You want to run it 38 times for 178 yards, we'll let you. But we're not going to let your ball go over the head. So they didn't get one ball over their head. They tried, but they wouldn't let anything go deep. And that was Clinton Hurt's game plan.
Now, that was also sort of Brian Flores' game plan all the way back in week 2, right? And the Eagles said, okay, you want us to run on you? We'll run on you. They didn't do that last night. Do you think that is a coaching decision? Do you think that's Jalen making plays at the line? What's your read there?
Well, they're very predictable, the offense. I mean, there's not a lot of pre-snap motion, movement. There's none of that. I mean, they kind of line up and play. And, there's been a lot of talk that they throw to 3 guys, and they do.
Right.
When they throw to another guy,
and he gets picked.
It's a disaster.
Yeah.
So, even go back to last year when they had Zach Pascal and then Zacchaeus this year and bringing in Julio. If you go back to the Buffalo game, who caught the biggest pass? It was Zacchaeus.
He played 5 snaps last night while Julio and Quez are playing 50-something combined. I don't understand that.
Yeah, well, I don't know the personnel and, what they have. But, I just think, Christian McCaffrey was on the Manning cast last night.
Yes, of course.
The Christian McCaffrey has no business whatsoever.
He's not even on the
knowing the
defense.
Eagles offense. I know they just played, but there's no reason. If you want to say something about the defense, fine. But when Christian McCaffrey's telling you Jack Stoll's in there to run wham, he's there to run
It's
wham.
empty. Oh, it's gonna be a quarterback draw.
I think you could go back and look. Ron Calcaterra, who got hurt last night, but if he's in the game, it's a run. They never throw to him. They never pass the ball when he's in there.
Right.
So there's a lot of the players think it's very predictable. Look, last night's corners for Seattle was Artie Burns. I didn't know he was still in the league.
Great full sentence
Artie Burns was
all-star.
out there and Trey Brown. That was their corners. There's no Devin Witherspoon. Tariq Woolen is benched.
Yeah.
They had the backups of the backups in there, and they were defending all the slants and basically all the passes.
And so, after watching the tape, to you, was it Jalen was missing open guys, missing reads, or was it more about the structure of the offense?
No, he missed some reads. the 37 crosser, where
Devontae's
it goes
wide
down,
open,
down to AJ. He's got to hit Devontae on that cross. It's a first down. They had 4 possessions in the second half. They had 2 interceptions and 2 punts. And the third down decisions, one where, he just bailed out of the pocket for no reason. Pocket was perfect. And he just bailed, and there was nothing on that side. That's when he was scrambling, running all over the place.
And that one, it looked to me like he could have just stepped up and thrown it to Devontae. Devontae's open over the middle.
Well, he could have done that easily, but he didn't. I don't know. He takes off sometimes for no reason. And so I can, if I don't know, Leonard Williams comes free on a twist stunt, okay, I get it. You go. But, they had that thing. It was a clear alley to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Buddy, I'm curious about, the deep shots to A.J. Brown. It felt like they hit on a lot of those last year.
Yeah.
And now it just feels like, they're kind of these low percentage throws when, like you said, they have Devontae on these crossers. Is there anything different they are doing this year that is leading to those not being as successful?
I don't know if there's anything different. Obviously they hit a ton of them last year, and they were a big play offense, and A.J. was loving it. But I feel like even on the throw when they should have hit Devontae and they went to A.J., there's a miscommunication on the play. A.J.'s running a go route, but, Jalen's not throwing a go route. Jalen's throwing a back shoulder fade stop. So, why is there a miscommunication in Week 15? Between, I don't know who's right or wrong. I could kind of figure it out, but regardless, that's if you're going to take that shot, you got to make it at least a good percentage throw.
I am still hung up.
But even if you go back to your point, on the first interception to Quez, it's really a bizarre play.
It really is.
Because here's what's going on. So they got twins to the right. Okay, so Quez is in the slot and AJ is out wide, and there's clearly a audible call, and Quez is signaling AJ about what the play is. Now, if you wanted to take the deep shot there, why wouldn't you put AJ in the slot and let him go against Julian or whoever's back there? But why would you go to Quez? But regardless, they're so confused by what the signal is that Kelsey snaps the ball and neither one of them leave the line of scrimmage.
Oh, jeez.
They didn't even leave on the snap. They're looking at each other when the ball got snapped. And so AJ was just like, hell with it. He just didn't even, he barely, like he just jogged.
It does tend to happen sometimes.
It does. It's a problem. But I mean, it was just a bizarre sequence.
And then we were talking about it because Quez, he doesn't fight for the ball at all. But he just sort of keeps running. He doesn't even look back.
He's a limited player.
Yeah.
The other thing we were confused about, what were they doing at the end of the game there? It felt like they could have used the middle of the field to try and get in.
I cannot get over this.
It's just
you need 15 more yards for that kicker. 15 more yards to be in legitimate field goal range. And
you got time for 2 plays before the field goal.
Yeah. I mean, it was poor decision. You could have checked it down, and picked up a bunch. Jalen ran for 20 to get him in that position and got down and got to the next play. They had plenty of time. And they have been good.
2 timeouts.
2 timeouts. They have been good in that spot. Like whether it's the end of the half or the end of games, they've been good at maximizing. I mean, I've seen them start drives with 30 seconds and score. Like for them to make that decision and throw that pass when there were so many other options is a little bizarre.
And AJ says on Twitter that he was the primary read on that play.
Okay.
Which I don't understand. Like, there is no value to getting, as you said, 40 yards instead of 20 yards there, and you have a chance to run 2 plays. Now all of a sudden, because you're going deep, it's only going to be 1 play. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it's poor execution all the way around.
All right, let's talk about the defense. We're all thinking about that final drive, the Drew Lock drive. And you and I have talked for a while about how the defensive line is not pulling its weight given the organizational investment. 10 straight dropbacks on that drive. Fletcher Cox sniffs him once. Like, we're talking about 40 individual rushes, and 1 guy almost gets home. That is, it's concerning,
Well, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. I mean, on the game-winning touchdown, neither Fletcher Cox or Jalen Carter are on the field. Mojo's
we got more Ojomo on the field.
Ojomo's on the field
One of
along
his
with Melton
6
Williams.
snaps. Yeah.
But they ran Fletcher and Jalen 8 straight plays in a row, so they were gassed, and you could tell they were gassed. But what's the point of having 8 defensive linemen up if you're not rotating them? And it's clear that Jordan Davis is not thought of as any kind of pass rusher,
right?
Because he's not on the field at all. But you could have used him in rotation, some kind of rotation. Reddick was gassed. No Brandon Graham. Like they put Sweat and Reddick out there for all 10 plays. You're right. I mean, they threw the ball 10 straight times in a row, and Drew Lock was probably feeling like it was Friday afternoon.
Yeah. Now usage-wise, schematically, did you notice any major differences with Patricia at the helm?
He didn't blitz at all.
He didn't blitz at all.
No, there's no blitzing, no pressures.
He blitzed like 5% according to the numbers, like half of their previous low.
Yeah, but even
season.
the blitzes were just basically linebacker drawing a block.
Right.
It wasn't like he was rushing. He was just trying to draw a block to get the guys one-on-ones. And, Jalen won one-on-one. There wasn't a whole lot of wins out there. Now, Big Abe and Charles Cross are good players, but, I mean, you put them out there long enough, like you got to win eventually.
So I guess the question that is really on everybody's mind, Baldy, is there any hope?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I saw, for example, I was in San Francisco for week 11. They were playing Tampa, and it was after they had lost 3 in a row, had a bye week, hadn't won a game in a month.
Right.
Quarterback turned it over a few times. Defense didn't get 1 sack against Kirk Cousins. Joe Burrow had his way with the defense. So they come back after the bye. They go down to Jacksonville, and they wax them. And so I just said, Fred Warner, are you guys fixed? Did you fix? He goes, we're locked in and we're fixed. I don't know that anybody could challenge us. Like, he knew it. And I saw him last week. I saw Fred last week, and it was the same thing. Like, we're locked in. So the Eagles, I think the team knows that they're very predictable in offense. There's times, there's ways to tweak all that within the scheme of what they do. They got 3 cupcakes coming up. I mean, it's cupcake. So they get plenty of time to get this thing fixed and still win the division, have a home playoff game, and get back into it.
Well, speaking of cupcakes, I think we got some banana pudding over here. Zach Berman is going to be very jealous because everybody knows Darius Slay's wife's banana pudding, but we have the Sweet Nita's banana pudding.
I'll jump
here.
on that.
And that looks great. Yeah, I'll have
I mean,
some
do you
as
want
well.
like a breakdown of this right now?
Yeah, let's get it. Yeah.
Well, first of all, the vanilla wafers crunched into it are must. Like, you got to have it.
Really good.
So you get the crunch right away. But then the flavor, like, this is a meal. It's not a snack. It's not a dessert. This is a meal. Like, there's a lot of good health benefits to this right here.
And I got to tell you, this is not like the Eagles' offense. This is unpredictable. Every little bite bringing something different.
This is vanilla in the best way.
It's definitely vanilla. That's good. You can't go wrong with anything that has bananas in it. Like, it's just it's the most bought item in the world are bananas. Most purchased item in the whole world are bananas. Yeah, I did this research on it. Most purchased item for a reason.
What went into the research?
I read the Encyclopedia Britannica. I read the whole thing,
Front to back.
Front to back.
front to back.
Love it.
And and they have bananas in there, and they're the most bought
Which
item
came
in the
early,
world.
and it came early on. So it's it's a B. So it's impressive that you retained that knowledge.
But
all
I
the way
used
through.
to make banana bread.
Okay, I do that
when I was young.
with my son still.
And the key to banana bread is to get the oldest, mushiest bananas you
That's
can
right.
get.
That's
you
right.
don't want like the fresh banana. You don't want obviously no green bananas, but you want really old, stale, beat up, mushy bananas. That gives you the best flavor. And I have a feeling they do the same thing with this.
I mean, that's an elite breakdown. Just like this is an elite banana pudding. My only pushback to the comparison to the Niners of their 3-game losing streak. The Niners were, at that point, now it was early in the season, they had a steady hand, right? They're not firing coordinators behind the scenes. They're not panicking about what's going on.
There was a lot of calls for Vance Joseph's head.
Okay.
He made a bad call in the Minnesota Viking game. At the end of the half, he ran a blitz zero, which they never do because they don't need to. And that's when Jordan Addison caught the ball and went 60 yards.
Right.
Broke the game wide open. And that was right before the bye. And there was a lot of heat on Kyle to like, this isn't the right guy. This is not what we do. And Kyle called him out. Kyle called his coordinator out publicly. And he didn't just say Vance Joseph, that's the word. But he basically said, like, that there's no reason for that call.
Which is funny because it's the precise opposite of what Sirianni did. He did not call anybody out in public. Instead, he just fired them behind the scenes.
Well, it looked terrible last night. It's a terrible look. I mean,
to make
there's
him
Troy.
be sitting there like
Sean Desai, I don't know what he's doing. Is he charting plays?
right.
You know,
It looked like he had a coloring book. Like
he might have been, but it's just a bad look. And you've never seen. You can't really go back. I'm not pretending to understand like what Weeb Eubank did in '69 with the Jets to win it all. Like I don't think he fired any of his coordinators back then, but it's not something that you typically would do. But I just don't know. Like I saw James Bradbury in the lineup, out of the lineup. I saw Josh Jobe at corner. I saw Josh Jobe on the sideline. I saw every single corner lined up and played outside last night.
yes.
Like, it looked like it was an audition to see who wants to play corner.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's what Patricia does.
It was
but
like Ringo and
typically,
Ritz.
guys want to be on the field. And they want a chance to, like, get a feel for things. Whether it's jumping a route or how the quarterback's eyes are. Does he drop his eyes? Does he keep them up? Like, you want to stay on the field to be able to make a play.
And where would you rank the performance you saw from the Eagles linebackers in the game last night among the linebackers you've seen around the league this year?
Well, on a 23-yard touchdown pass, or touchdown run by Kenneth Walker,
Yes.
both linebackers disappeared.
Yeah.
They just literally disappeared. Now, Kenneth Walker's a good back. He stepped up, 3rd and 1. They stepped up to clean him up, and he bounced as soon as he saw it. It was Shaq and it was Morrow. As soon as he saw both linebackers step up, that's when he bounced it. And literally, I mean, he was just out there on the perimeter at that point. Like, there's an old saying at linebacker, like, slow do you know? There's no reason to just fire your gun right there and just sell out and just give yourself up. And there's just literally, I mean, Drew Lock is throwing a block down the field.
Which he did like several times in this game, it seemed like. Well, I don't know. I thought that Keely Ringo looked okay. Is that like one small little bit of silver lining, you think?
Well,
that's a deep breath. That is a deep breath before. I feel like we're not going to get a positive on this one.
Look, that game, they could have won that game 3 different times.
Yes.
So whoever's on the field, whether it's Keeley on the field or whatever, like obviously they need somebody now that Slay's down for however long he is down. They need somebody. And maybe Bradley Roby is their slot defender. It seems like every position is up for audition right now, which is not good. You're going to see a really good tight end, Trey McBride, this week. I'm saying 2 weeks. Yeah. 2 weeks against Arizona. Look, they've given up 30 touchdown passes. I mean, it's only Washington's given up more, and we know what Washington's defense looks like. So it's a problem. It's been a problem. I would say that Drew Lock started his second game, basically in the last 4 years.
Yeah,
and he took him down the field like it was like he does this every week.
So fair to say then that you can't just overlook Tommy DeVito for this Eagles defense.
Well, I mean, last week the Saints ran the exact same stunt 3 times, and they sacked Tommy DeVito all 3 times in the exact same stunt. So I would think that the Giants, if I was the Eagles, I'd run the same stunt, see if they could stop it. They couldn't stop it last week. And they just beat the hell out of Tommy DeVito. And so they didn't really let him scramble. And so they did a good job on him. But I think there's a way to put him in his place.
I remember you said before the Dallas game, they got to score 30 to win these games. Do you think that is generally the formula? I mean, obviously week to week defenses get better and worse, but if they do figure this out, if they do, get that hope.
Like I was saying, like they didn't need 30 last night, but 30 would have put them away. Yeah. But even in the first half, I know Seattle. I've done 3 of their games this year. I know that personnel. I know that team really good. I was saying to myself in the first half, do they know they're playing the Eagles? Like, why are they – like, they're not doing anything on offense.
Wasn't that bizarre?
It was bizarre what they did. And, Pete's very conservative. He's not going for it on 4th downs. Okay. But still, they weren't doing anything to free up DK Metcalf. And then once they kind of got going and Walker got going in the second half, they started to look a little bit like they're capable of. But I thought maybe they're just a bad team and they're not going to figure this out. And then they kind of found a little bit of a rhythm.
All right. Well, I guess.
But I do think going forward, I mean, when you play games in mid-January, whoever they play against, I feel like they need to put up 30 to have a chance.
Yeah, I just cannot imagine, given the personnel on defense, that they can stop any of the NFC contenders when it really matters.
Well, you saw the Cowboys last week had no ability to stop Buffalo's running game. They gave up 266 yards rushing. They're going to see the number 1 rushing offense in football in Miami this week, and it might be more of the same. But it's a very outside of San Francisco and Baltimore, it's a very flawed field. So everybody's got them. Can you accent the flaws, and then can you hide yours? That's kind of where it's at right now.
And they've got sort of 3 weeks to figure out,
but even
what
you're
buttons
right.
they can push.
But even with that, though, like if you go back to the Super Bowl year, okay, obviously Carson gets hurt, and Nick comes in. They played the Raiders on Christmas night. He was awful.
It looked terrible.
Horrible.
And everybody's thinking, maybe they need to go to Sudfeld.
They were asking about that.
Yeah.
And then the next week they played the Cowboys, and they started him. They didn't have to.
They played
he
like
played
one
like
series.
the first half, and he was awful. So I remember seeing some of the personnel people, Joe Douglas, after the game, and I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" Like I don't know if they knew they were going to play Atlanta right away at that point in that Sunday night, but anyways, they said we got to be able to run the ball. Like we got to basically we were saying was we got to hide our quarterback, and Nick becomes the MVP of the Super Bowl.
And he didn't turn it on until really the second half of that Falcons game. He struggled in the first half.
I mean,
of that
if
game.
Julio doesn't slip in the end zone, maybe Atlanta wins that game.
Maybe that's why the Eagles brought him in. Like him and Patricia, it's like, thank you guys for your contributions to 2017.
But
we will give you a paycheck.
There's a danger to what they've done. And I'm a Kevin Byard fan. But you bring in Shaq Leonard, like last night, Kenneth Walker put him like in a deep freeze last night. So you bring in Julio, you bring in, you bring in these guys, and they're all older players. They're all in their 30s.
You are preaching my language here.
I mean, there's a danger to just bringing in older guys, period. They're already old with Fletcher and Brandon. They're already limited by how many snaps. I mean, Fletcher's probably playing too many snaps as it is because he has to. But, Brandon's down to 15 snaps a game. And so why wouldn't you just put your number 1 pick out of Georgia out there on the field?
And get the long-term benefit of it. If they struggle and they're not 100% ready early in the season, guess what? There's a chance they will benefit from those reps in down the stretch in December and January. all of those things will, like, you know, it's like the Sirianni flower analogy. Like, you plant those roots, you have a chance for them to grow, and all of a sudden that, like, progress is stunted by all of these sort of patchwork fill-ins, I feel like.
I agree.
All
It's
right.
a young man's game.
It is a young man's game, unless, I mean, you got Baldy breaking down banana pudding. We got Weeb Eubank. I feel like that was a perfect.
I tried to like make 60 years of history seamless.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
That'll do it for the PHLY Eagles podcast live from Reading Terminal. Stay tuned. We've got the All-City All-NFL show coming up with Baldy, so check that out. And that'll do it. We thank everybody for joining us. Thank you to Rich for stepping in. Thank you to Julia behind the scenes. And we will talk to you tomorrow at 10 o'clock on the PHLY Eagles show. As always, we thank you for listening. We'll talk to you later, and we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.